Good afternoon, members, officers, and anyone viewing on live stream. Welcome to this meeting of the Grants Advisory Committee. I'm Councillor Joseph Hales, I'm Chair of Grants, and to my left is my colleague Sue Ellington, Councillor Ellington, who's the Vice Chair. For anyone who's joining us remotely, just to ensure that their cameras and microphones remain off unless they are addressing a committee, and for those present in the room, please ensure your microphone is close to you when you speak and speak clearly when addressing the room. Thank you very much. We know what it sounds like in here. So moving on to the agenda, number one, apologies for absence. Aaron.
Thank you very much, Chair. We have a full house today. No apologies for absence.
Thank you. And to my councillor colleagues, any declarations of interest? Councillor Hanley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Non-pecuniary in the zero carbon grants, the Octagon Willingham is in my ward, and in the community chest, St Mary's Church Hall is in my ward. But I have no involvement, no direct involvement with either project. Okay,
thank you very much, Councillor Linton.
On the same grounds, the Lulworth is one of my villages, and they have an application in the community grants, and I haven't been involved.
Councillor Havraj. Yeah. Just to declare a non-pecuniary. Yeah, okay, fabulous. Thank you very much. Okie doke. Okay. And you're not part of that, though? You're not part of that? No. Okay, brilliant. Right, thank you very much. So if that's all it is there, that's great. So we move on to number 3, which is the minutes. Oh, sorry, James.
My button there yet. Sorry, I don't know if I'm joining you just as from another committee, but I've got. I need to declare interest in.
No.
No.
As you're not a member of the committee, you won't be providing your recommendations to lead cabinet members, so you have no interest to declare.
Fantastic, thank you.
You can just sit there and look gorgeous.
Thank you very much.
Right, okay, moving on before I get myself in trouble. Minutes. Page 3 of the agenda. Just sing out if there's anything that irks you. I think you're right. So page 3, page 4, and page 5. That's the agenda. Yeah. Nothing on there. So can I sign them off as a true record? Thank you very much. Public questions, Aaron. Have we got any? Oh. Yeah, go back. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question of Emma under point 6 on the minutes service support grants. We talked about the Overday Centre. I just wonder if there'd been any progress yet, whether she's spoken to them or plans to in the near future.
Over to you, Emma.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we had a conversation, didn't we, Bill? And I have made a note. So the service support grant, that launches on the 8th of September. So in the next couple of weeks, I will be contacting all the community groups and I'll telephone him so he's aware.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Public questions.
Thanks, Chair. We don't have any public questions today.
Thank you. And that means agenda item number 5. So we start at the main event. So this is over to Ellie and Orla for the zero carbon community grants. Over to you.
Great, thank you very much. Details of the applications and scores are laid out in the report, specifically in Appendix A. All applications and their scores are listed. I think it's quite useful also to just kind of recap the scoring system. So we're, keeping that at the forefront of our minds. So projects are scored against 3 equally weighted criteria. So the first is how they fulfil the theme, so either reducing carbon emissions or achieving wider community engagement on climate change. And the second is how well they demonstrate additional value, so that can be communicating the project to the wider community. They might be coming with match funding, or they might be leveraging partnerships, they might sort expert advice, or they might be contributing volunteer time. We sort of see that on a case-by-case basis and try to assess what additional value the projects are bringing. And then finally, the lifetime impact of the project. So is it sustainable? And is there potential for this project to continue to benefit the community, sort of looking beyond this grant award? Is there longevity there? So as I said earlier, we had 23 applications. Those were received from 22 different parish councils and local community groups. So once again, the grant has been really significantly oversubscribed, which just demonstrates the appetite for this kind of funding and the enthusiasm in communities to deliver these types of projects. We did have one group withdraw their application. And I'd just like to say that the standard of applications this year was incredibly high. The officer panels were really impressed across the board, and there are many excellent projects that unfortunately this funding proposal doesn't see them funded, but we'd love to see them delivered. And obviously we'll be getting in touch with groups to offer useful feedback where we can, and encourage them to sign up for our zero carbon communities mailing lists, stay engaged with us, and we can signpost them to future funding opportunities as well. But yeah, as we'll see in Appendix A, all projects are ranked by their overall score, and to kind of lay out quite clearly how the officer proposal that's in the report was put together, we were allocating funds to projects by score in descending order, allocating the whole £152,000 pot. And then we found that we were looking to distribute the remaining funding between Cambridge Sustainable Food or Dry Drayton Parish Council, who both had the same score. So just to ensure fairness, and because these are both excellent projects, members then suggested that supplementary funds could be made available to fully fund those two projects, and Finance confirmed this is possible, so it has formed part of the officer proposal and would mean that all projects scoring 77% or above are fully funded. We'd just like to draw members' attention in the project summaries in Appendix C. There are some projects that have applied and they have some outstanding permissions, but where officers felt that the project was still really likely to be deliverable, and these permissions are likely to be secured, and the sort of risk was thought low, we will be, if members choose to allocate according to the proposal, these grants could be awarded subject to us seeing satisfactory evidence that those permissions have been secured. So just to call up a few examples there. So for instance, Dry Drayton Parish Council, that's the solar streetlight project. I think they're still engaging with the county council as the landowner to get permissions for the streetlight, but Councillor Stobart is supporting that process, and the ball is rolling, and we hope that they'll get that permission soon. And then in the case of William Westley, their sheds for the pre-loved uniform shop, they're just getting confirmation that the sheds will be compliant with permitted development regs and can be installed on the school site. So yeah, I think another encouraging thing I'd just like to pick up on is that we've had several applications that are reapplications after net zero villages. So that shows that, if a group is unsuccessful for one grant, we hope that they aren't discouraged and they can reapply and take that opportunity to action any feedback and then return with a very strong application, which we've seen in this round. But we understand these applications are a really significant undertaking, often done by volunteers, and we just want to say that the effort is recognised and very much appreciated, and that we were really impressed with the standard of applications this year. So yeah, I think that's all the prefacing I want to do. So please let me know if there are any questions, and happy to discuss any projects.
Thanks, Ola, that was great. Question, so I've got Sue that's got a quick point, so you having a think about it, have a think about it and go next after Sue, yeah, Bill?
I don't want to second guess, as it were, the committee that looked at these and drew conclusions about their value, but I would like to know more about the Let's Cook project, because it seems to me the information we've got doesn't base it anywhere. It doesn't, it seems to be rather vague about how it will recruit people to the classes that they're going to run. they talk about 20 clubs, but where within South Cambs are we talking? I, I, I don't know this organisation, and I therefore wonder how stable it is, and would like to be convinced that it will actually produce something. And I'm a little concerned that £1,500 is going to be paid, quite a lot is going to be paid to employees to do this rather than volunteers. One would have thought that with this sort of task that there were volunteers who are good cooks and could carry out quite a lot of this function. Okay, they're going to have one volunteer. And I just feel uncomfortable about it, okay?
Yeah, thank you very much for those comments. I guess to address your first point there, so where are the clubs, where are the community settings where the training is taking place? So Let's Cook project we have funded before, so we have end of project reporting from there, them that name those community settings, and those have been children and young people settings. I think they've also worked with probation settings, but we can provide that detail if that would be of interest to members and the new cabinet member for resources. They do also provide quite a detailed breakdown of the proposed grant expenditure as well. So the officer panel was satisfied with the level of detail that was in the application, but as this is a summary, maybe I've not managed to capture in the summary all the detail that would reassure you, but if there is anything else that we can supplement there, be very happy to provide that. Is that covered your question there? Is there
is
like
it a charity?
So it's a community interest company, I believe.
Sorry?
Sick.
Oh, right, yes. Okay. So it has got some financial backing of its own.
Yeah,
and has got a base, as it were, within some of the villages, or one of the villages.
Yeah, so I believe they're based in Barrington.
All right.
And this project specifically is geared towards reducing avoidable food waste. Their work more widely is often around empowering people to cook from scratch, tackling food poverty, giving people the skills to cook and eat well. And I think they also provided sessions in South Cambs in various community settings. I think there was one in North Stowe. And I think feedback from that session was good. And I know that Councillor Warren Green had positive things to say about the community's reception to the delivery of those sessions. So, you know, point taken, we can try and build more of a picture for that organisation if that would be helpful for members.
Yeah, thanks, Ola. That, I suppose that would be, we say this to everybody, that any officers come, one of our criteria is how much does it benefit us in South Cambs, if you like. Even if it was based outside, we've had one or two that were based outside South Cambs, but they did a lot of work inside South Cambs, and so they kind of qualify that with that kind of thing. I mean, it's the first I've heard of this. I'm next door to Barrington, so it's kind of, it's not particularly well advertised, if you like, from my point of view. So if it has been, I've missed it. It's not unheard. I do get better every now and then.
No, that's really useful feedback, and I will say I think it would be great to work more closely with Let's Cook if they are funded for the next year, and I know that waste policy colleagues would be keen to do this as well, to hopefully see that the council can kind of amplify that messaging a little bit and make use of quite high quality campaign resources that they are making, but yeah, help spread that a bit more. So yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Ola. Bill.
Actually, my reason for sticking my hand up was the Let's Cook project, and the question, one of my questions has already been asked by Sue, but I also wonder, is it within the remit of this particular scheme of grants? It's a question. I don't know. It doesn't strike me as being fitting comfortably with this. I mean, it may be, I'm sure it's a very worthwhile project, but I just wonder whether or not this is the fund for this. Are you going to be taking looking at item by item, or are we just going to say, no, we either accept the officer's recommendations or not? Because I've got other comments to make, and I wonder if I can just do that now as a whole, and maybe Ola can cover them off. It's up to you, Chair.
I think what we tend to do is we work on the officer's recommendation for the package, but then we if we have concerns for any of the applications, then we visit those. I mean, basically, anything that at the moment is greyed out is the ones that are getting some the ones that are greyed out on the appendix B, A, are the ones that are getting funding.
Yeah.
But if you have a question as to, it applies to anybody actually, if anyone has a question as to why something didn't get funding, which is in the ungreyed area, then sing out as well.
Yeah, I think, Chair, I mean, there were just a couple of decisions which I don't really understand. They're probably quite very good explanations, but I just wanted to ask the question. I think if I was submitting a bid, I would hope that committee members would ask these questions. So are you all right if I do that and ask Ola to reply? Okay. I've already covered the Let's Cook. In the Green Heat Co-op was not recommended. It's based in Royston. Can I presume that that's considered to be sort of out of district, and that's why it didn't get? There's no recommendation for funding on that one. Hold on. Should have put them all on one sheet. Sorry. The Teversham Community Club. It says that it was formerly the Teversham Conservative Club, but they've changed their name and now it's a community. I just wonder if the officers are absolutely certain that there's no political affiliation. There isn't. Right, thank you. That's all I needed to know. Thank you. Okay, fine, John. And then I also would like to ask why the Dry Drayton Village Hall bid for solar panel funding was not accepted. I just wanted to know what was the main reason for that. And I think that's probably it. Sorry, Chair, I'm hogging the time here. Yeah, that was all my questions.
Just to be clear, you're not hogging. This is what we're doing next. This is good.
This is what we do.
So if anyone else has got questions, is it okay, or if we get the questions, you can make a note and then Sunita.
So in a similar way, I'm asking why Orchard Park was refused. I mean, this is an urbanized area which is asking for something green and biodiverse. So I would like to know why this decision, how this decision was made. Thank you.
Anybody else? So.
I just wondered whether we could be absolutely convinced, or no, that's not right, quite the word. With the Willingham St Mary's Church, I am a little concerned that the Octagon is owned by the Church of England, and although it's a community centre, do we fund things that are owned by the Church of England? And that was my question. And I'm not being awkward, I'm just being sure that we're being consistent.
Thank you. Ola. So I think we've done the Teversham. John answered that one, so we'll put that through. Over to you.
Great, yeah. Okay, so I think the next one I can address is Green Heat Co-op and the question of whether projects outside, where the organisation is based outside of the district, whether those are immediately discounted. The answer to that is no. We have in the past funded projects where the organisation is based outside the district, provided that the funded activity benefits residents of South Cambs. So you may remember last year we funded Citizens Advice Cambridge and District, based in the city, but obviously benefiting South Cambs residents. So in the case of Green Heat Co-op, that was more down to scoring. But, we do like to get some detail where those projects would be recommended for funding, so we're absolutely sure that a fair proportion of the beneficiaries of that organisation are lying within the district and that funding will benefit South Cambs residents. And then just to address
Before you go to the next one, Green Heat, if that had been funded, I would have challenged it myself. Melbourne is next door to Royston, obviously it's North Heights. And I was talking to Sue about this, and I said there was no mention. Melbourne, it seems to be the forefront of anything at the moment, and we've got Octopus who's formed a number of companies called the Melbourne Superloop, which is going to be the off-cast heat from a data centre that they're building in our patch. And they are going to be digging up the whole of Melbourne, putting in these huge pipes all over the place, and then offering free heat to any house that signs up. You have to get rid of your gas boiler and put in the equivalent heat exchangers and what have you, which you can get with the funding from the government, the 7,500. But there was no mention, and I was going to ask you actually, was there any mention of that in their application? Because it's been all over social media, consultations and what have you, and what they're doing is tickling the edges in the Green Heat Co-op. Not that I'm knocking it, but it seems to be, by comparison to what was happening, from a different angle. Thanks.
I can't recall exactly the detail of the application form, if they named Melbourne Superloop and kind of related the project to that ongoing work. I don't recall that they did. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. And yeah. So I guess to go back to Councillor Handley's question around Let's Cook the Food Waste Avoidance Project, and is that a climate project? Is that, does that fit well within the remit of this grant scheme? I think in our zero carbon strategy, one arm of that, one action was around encouraging climate friendly diets, and changing behaviour around food waste is key to getting people eating more climate friendly diets, because I guess, what you eat is one part of it, but if you're wasting food, then that's got, emissions sort of associated with it as well. So the officer panel were kind of comfortable with that fit, but I can see how it's, maybe not as direct a link as other projects, but I think, avoiding food waste is often kind of underserved in those conversations around climate friendly diets. So I'm happy to pick up that conversation, Councillor Handley, if you're interested to discuss any further. But then, okay. And then in terms of just picking up on those two projects, why were they not funded? So I think the first of those was Dry Drayton Village Hall. So I don't remember there being any sort of specific concerns or reasons why that was decided definitely not to be funding. Again, that's a scoring thing. So we were allocating money in descending score order, and unfortunately, Dry Drayton Village Hall was that very, very close in the, hang on, so I'm just bringing up the appendix now. Yeah, so 75% overall score, and they haven't been funded. That's just how it's worked out this year, unfortunately. And in allocating the total pot, there has to be a cut-off line somewhere. So, we'd very much encourage them to reapply. The standard of project was really high, again, for solar PV projects as well this year. We've seen a real improvement in the standard of application that's brought to us, people getting really competitive quotes. And as they've got everything ready for that project, they've got these quotes in hand, that project is oven ready and they can be quite responsive when other grant funding comes open. So I really hope that they'll pursue that. And then in terms of Orchard Park, that application laid out really valuable plans for, I think it was a bit of kind of consultation or work they were going to do with consultants to make a decarbonisation plan for the building. And I think this grant is often looking to fund the sort of stage 2 of that. So groups come with the planning, they come with the energy survey in hand or the idea of what they want to do to the building, and then they use this money for the kind of capital project part of it. So that was by no means a bad application, and it, I hope that activity can go ahead. And I think the way they were hoping to involve the community in making the designs for the building was really positive. It's just that if we think about, we're looking in that category to see what carbon emissions reduction is going to be offered for the money that we'd spend from that activity. That's, you know, I guess a desktop study, isn't it? And there's no emissions reduction unless further money is found to then deliver that plan for the building. So I think officers were scoring more highly projects that were going to deliver those energy efficiency measures like directly to the building at that point. So yeah, I hope they can do the plan, but unfortunately the project isn't recommended for funding in the officer proposal.
They do say that they're going to use some of their own funds to do this, so that is available. Did you say something about not funding? Sorry.
Were you saying that they were going to? They were going to make a contribution to it. Yeah, so I'm sure that would have factored into their score in terms of the additional value that would be brought to the project. But I think, you know, ultimately this does come down to scoring, and when projects are being scored for the carbon emissions reduction that they're going to offer, if the project is for a desktop study or like a survey, but it's not actually delivering those practical interventions on the building, it's not going to score as highly as projects that are. So yeah, I think it sounds like it's going to be a really good bit of work. I hope it can go ahead. But yeah.
Thanks all. You have to put your microphone on, Sunita.
They could reapply for the project, for the Zero Carbon Communities grant, if it, you know, opens and runs again next year. But I think the advice from officers and you know, feedback will be offered is that we would like to see an application for practical interventions on the building with that study already in hand and the plans laid for what they're going to do. And I think the project might score more highly if they applied for those practical interventions and the money for that.
That's actually something to bear in mind actually when we talk to people. This has changed in recent years, isn't it, with regards to criteria. I'm looking at Ben and Emma now, all three of you good people, is that the criteria there, the advice, if you like, in the preamble before what you can and can't ask for, is usually try and have a project which is going to run, that you've got the planning permission in place, that you've got this in place, you've got that in place. And so if you have a really brilliant idea, but you haven't put anything into place, they're not quite so brilliant idea, and has it all in place, we'll get the funding, a new one. That's the change in the criteria, if I recall. I just want to ask, and forgive me, Ola, I mean, if you come back with, we did it last week, I'll hang my head in shame, but the criteria, we've had conversations like with Emma and Catherine, what have you, with regards to some of the criteria that for the community chest grants and stuff like that, and we've jiggled them a little bit, you know, made them a bit sterner and whatever. When was the last time the zero carbon were done? And I don't remember doing it, so, but I have been to bed since, I think, so you can perhaps enlighten me.
Yeah, so Councillor Ellington, I haven't forgotten your question about the octagon as well, but yeah, that's a good question. I think before we ran the grant last year, I believe it was, we did review the criteria on some certain points. So that was when we formalised the requirement that everyone needed to get 3 separate quotes for solar PV, some other kind of adjustments like that. But I'm sure we'd welcome the opportunity to do that again and ensure that this grant is still doing what members want it to do and funding the projects that, you know, members want funded. And obviously with input and direction from SEAC on that, I think we'd welcome that opportunity.
I think that'd be lovely, actually. I mean, obviously, including John is the ultimate yay or nay on this, so this is fine. But it is nice, and it obviously then allays any kind of questions, if you like, from our point of view when we ask a question that may cause us discomfort. Okay, over to you for the octagon. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so the guidance in the grant criteria around church buildings is that the Zero Carbon Communities grant, the building has to be a community space as well, and it has to be used by a wide range of groups and not just be for religious activity, and the grant can't fund religious activity. And as we understand, the Octagon is a separate building and is used by a wide range of groups, I believe, including the community hub as well. So we felt the case was there that, you know, this was a community space in its own right. So yeah.
Just to support that, I can tell you that, you know, the Octagon is very much a community building. It's used a lot. It's a parish council, community hub, warm hub in a cold room. But that's the problem with it. It's bitterly cold in the winter.
Right, thank you. So, colleagues, before we go to any kind of voting or recommendations, are we comfortable with all the questions that we've asked Orla for the approvals? And do we have any more questions for the applications that were not approved? Other than, well, we've got the Orchard Park one there, but anything else from anybody else? And I have to say, James, you're from the Climate Committee, yeah? I believe.
Yes, correct.
Right. It would be only fair to say, have you got any questions you'd like to ask or anything like that?
No, I think I don't have any direct questions on them. I've read through the what's been awarded, and so I'm going working my way through the criteria. So no, nothing.
Sorry to throw you in the deep end there. Obviously, I can see what's he saying? You know, but if we had people come, rather than if we had other councillors sitting there, we would have asked. So just bear that in mind. If you come, if you want to say something, then yeah, pipe up. We just won't be able to vote. Okay, cheers. Right, in that case, are we comfortable to move this as one lump of recommendation to the lead member for finance? Can I? So again, so sorry.
Did we ask John whether he's happy with what on the paper?
We didn't, but he didn't look miserable. So that's always a sign.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Councillor Warren Green and myself have gone through these applications and with Orla, and we're satisfied with the scoring methodology. I think at the end of the day, you know, we have a certain pot of money, and unfortunately it wasn't big enough to give everyone what they wanted. But as Orla said, you know, we'll go back and work with those that weren't successful to either find alternative funding for them or to help them reapply next year.
Thanks, John. Right, colleagues, are we okay to approve all of, as I said, all the greyed out area, ones that have actually finances against them? So if you can you nod at me? So we're looking, is that a yes?
Happy with that.
Sunita, you okay? Yep, brilliant. That's everybody. So that's a yes to everything, yeah, Orla. And thank you very much for the presentation. It was great. But if you wouldn't mind, if we could, for next time, prior, a few months in advance before you go live with it, if we could have a little, or as a committee, just bring it to the committee to say, this is the criteria, do we need to tweak or not? Or if you've got any tweaks you might think that we could have a look at, that'd be great. Okay, brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, noted. Thanks very much.
Much obliged. Okay, moving on then. That's agenda item number 6. This is Ben, you're up. So this is the grant applications for the voluntary sector long-term conditions, 25-26. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Chair. The committee may remember from Grants Advisory Committee in June that it was agreed for the long-term health condition grant to be repeated for 2025-2026 financial year, just following the successes of the previous years. So this was open for voluntary community and social enterprises, specialist groups and leisure centres. They're invited, to apply for up to £2,000, and this is towards starting a new class or maintaining an existing programme or session, or potentially training existing or new staff for the session delivery of that activity. So the grant is looking to support ongoing delivery of those physical activity programmes that's looking to support those that are living with a long-term health condition with the aim to help manage those conditions and their health and well-being on a day-to-day basis. The application, we received 4 applications this year, which totaled £6,328, and officers considered 3 applications to be eligible, which totaled £4,328. So I'll go through the 3 that officers felt were eligible. So first of all, we had an application from Cambridge Cancer Centre, which is based in Shelford, and this was for £2,000, and this is to fund the continuation of the classes that are being offered and delivered there. So this includes body toning, body resistance, and also a couple of dance and fitness sessions that are run weekly. And this is essentially for the cost of the instructor for the delivery, or towards the cost of the instructor for delivery. A second application considered eligible was for Club Vintage, which is based in Swavesey at the Baptist Church, and this was for £828. This was to fund training in sort of chair-based exercises, which includes areas of falls prevention and functional and balance-based activities. And it's to help sort of deliver the already ongoing chair-based exercises, but also with this new training to be able to deliver more detailed and more sessions at that club. And that's for the participants of that would be sort of dementia typically, but also older and frailer adults too. And then the final application considered eligible was from Anglia Leisure Sawston, wanting £1,500, and this is to fund equipment costs towards the setup of a menopause activity class. So that was equipment costs for dumbbells and kettlebells, which would be then used for their weekly class that they're looking to start at the sports centre there. Yes, so they're the applications we received. If members would consider these applications for funding, and also if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer those for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. That's brilliant. Everything was nice and clear, but my colleague has had to use a special enlargement tool called a photocopier so that we could see the spreadsheet. So we were hoping that you'd come and explain it because we couldn't see it. Right, but other than that, that's fab. I just wondered if that formatting on that just for future reference could be tweaked somehow and made it, even if it goes across several pages, doesn't matter. I know, but
make
apologies.
it smaller.
It's because it's the office is what the officers use for when scoring decisions. So, but yes, I'll try and make sure that it's clearer next time. Apologies, everybody.
To be honest, Ben, what you should have said there was, I gave it to Dem Services and they ruined it.
I wouldn't want to make that assumption.
Sue, over to you.
I can verify that Vintage are for old people. I deliver several people to that particular club, but I'm not old enough really. I'm only 80, so I don't stay.
Right, so has anybody else got any questions? Pete?
Yeah, just to clarify, the reason the Camborne application was refused is simply because there's already funding for the instructor costs. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, correct. Sorry if that wasn't clear. Yeah, so there's already an agreement with Camborne Sports Centre for the cardiac rehabilitation programme already, so it would be duplication of funding that it was rejected on this occasion.
Any other colleagues got any questions? Okay, right, so we've got the options here. So option A, award the funding in line with the officer recommendations. Option B, different amounts including zero funding given the reasons. so we can change that if we so wished. And option C, the committee could also defer a decision if further information is required from the applicant or reject an application, giving the reasons, including if it doesn't comply with the scheme criteria. So I think if there's one thing that I am confident about is the criteria will have been followed, so we can kiss goodbye to that one. I don't think anything else actually, from what people have said, colleagues have said, I don't think there's anything to query. So my recommendation to you guys would be, excuse me, option A, which is award the funding in line with officer recommendations. Do we agree?
We do.
We do, that's it. Thank you very much, Ben, that's really great. And moving on, I was going to say Jane, but it's Emma. Hi, Emma. Community chair, is that you're doing the community chest? Yeah. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So you'll see from page 46, we've had 3 applications, one of which is a biodiversity application. The total requested amount this month is £4,347.39. And as you can see from the report, we've almost used up all of our biodiversity budget, just to make you aware of that, because we're obviously halfway through the year in that respect. Just to also make you aware, Willingham Community Plan Group, this was funded back in November 2022. They have returned us £1,000 of the £2,000 that they were awarded, which is obviously good because that's obviously come back to us. They didn't need quite as much as they initially applied for. Initially, they based their application on estimates, just as obviously that's quite a big difference there, but just to make you aware of that. Moving on to page 49, we have St Mary's Church at Over. This was a building which was built in around 1850. It's had limited improvements over the years. It has a church hall, and this can be hired out to the community. For example, a few examples of the groups that use it are for Pilates, exercise classes, the youth club, the community and the church cafe, various events, and also for private hire. A recent consultation with the local community identified some key areas for improvement at the hall. So based on this feedback, the parochial church council would like to undertake some refurbishment works, and it is hoped that obviously once these improvements have been made, more groups and individuals will use the hall. Total estimated costs for the work, this includes drawings, planning permission, building regs, a structural engineer, etc., are around £5,000, and £2,000 has been requested from the community chest to help some of those preliminary costs that are all listed there. The church PCC has agreed to fund the remaining costs, although they're still looking for local funding as well. Parish Council have been contacted, but any potential funding will not be available until the next financial year, so they can't confirm anything at this particular point. They've already, this is quite interesting in respect to their green options, they've already had an energy audit undertaken by Cambridge Acre, and the findings of this will be incorporated into the planning process. We have support from both district councillors, Councillor Bill Hanley and Councillor Daniel Lentle. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Colleagues? Peter?
Thank you, Chair. Does this work require consent from the Diocese of Ely, and if so, have they obtained it already?
I'm just checking. I would have thought that they would have had this, but I would need to double check that. Obviously, if it's going through the planning process, I think this is something that our officers would have obviously advised them to do, and would probably check anyway. So thank you.
Thank you.
So Emma, on that note, given that we were talking about with the zero carbons and how projects should be ready to go with all the planning and heaven knows what else, does this have consent? If it's a planning, is there a planning application? And does it have consent? Otherwise, essentially, we're just going to give them money to hang on to it for a year and then they'll give it back. which seemed a bit pointless. We could already use that. If they're not ready to go, they're not ready to go. And I think if we're trying to leave an even hand, it would be sensible to make sure we have the... 2 minutes ago, we were saying to Orla, you know, this is the reason why Orchard Park didn't get what they got, because they weren't ready to rock. And if these aren't ready to go, then I would, in my humble opinion, the same criteria applies.
I'm assuming that they've had some pre-app advice, which is what we can provide, but I can obviously clarify that further. I can't tell you for definite, though.
Is the building listed, Bill?
Chair, I really don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure it would be.
No. Sue says it's in a conservation area as well.
It's in a conservation area,
And
that's
it
for
would
sure.
need planning,
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
yeah.
Okay. I'm going to look to John for advice on this. My heart is asking that we would potentially defer this until we have the answers for next month. Have you got anything to add to that, John?
Thank you, Chair. No, I think that would be sensible given the comments that have been made that, yeah, we need to hold fire on this until we know that they have the relevant permissions to go ahead with this.
They haven't put in full planning permission yet, and they say if successful. So I think...
And also, Chair, if I may, deferring it might give the parish council time to consider helping financially as well. I think that would be a very good thing.
Right. So, is everybody in agreement? We defer. Right. So I think, Emma, if you wouldn't mind writing back to these people and explaining the situation, the even-handedness that we've elected to make sure we do today, as always, but especially today, as we had two separate grant funds running, three grant funds running, sorry. Would they be kind enough to, I don't know why you'll do this, John, whether we should knock it back completely and say, can you then reapply when you've got your planning permission, which would perhaps make sense, rather than defer it until they've got planning.
Well, I think we need to find out, first of all, do they need planning permission?
Yeah. Okay.
Do they need permission from the diocese? And if they do, then obviously we will need to not defer it, but we will need to ask them to reapply when they have those permissions. It might be, though, that they don't require those permissions, in which case I think we probably could give Emma the authority to go ahead if they have those don't require those permissions.
That's what I was going to say. I think deferral till we know. If they haven't, cancel it. Come back when you have.
Well, you might want to bring it back to. You may want to bring it back to the next meeting, so that Emma can report back to you on the situation.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, they've actually included the cost of the planning application in their costings for this, which is, yes.
Okay, Emma, thank you. Next one, please.
Thank you. Page 52. This is Lulworth Parish Meeting. They have 121 electorates, and as you'll know, this is eligible to apply. They can apply to the community chest, given that they're a smaller parish council. The project they were looking for funding for is to replace the current rotten basketball post, which is located at the local play park. Total costs are around £347.39 for both a heavy-duty basketball hoop and stand system and the sand to obviously install that, all of which has been requested from the community chest. So that's £339.99 for the basketball hoop and stand, and then £7.40 for 2 bags of sand. They haven't got any other funding. We have support from Councillor Sue Ellington. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Anyone got any comments? I think it's pretty straightforward. They've got the basketball earmarked, the net earmarked, and the sand. Hold it down, Peter.
Yeah, I actually went out and looked at the Lulworth Parish website, and they've got an image of Councillor Ellington opening a telephone box in 2000 and something, many years ago, but won't hold that against them. This seems like a very good application to support.
I went to the primary school, I'll have you know, in Lulworth.
I have a mental picture now. Right. Thank you very much. We're in agreement for that one, are we? Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, Emma, that's a yes to that one.
Thank you. Page 54, this is our one and only biodiversity application. This is from Teversham Parish Council, who would like to plant 10 trees along the recreation ground car park. That's in Teversham, obviously, and that will be to improve biodiversity. This is a public car park, accessible to the public at all times. You'll see from the map within the report, it shows the precise planting locations of these trees. They've already sought advice from our Natural Environment Team Leader and a former Cambridge City Council trees officer, so they've obviously got that advice, which is fantastic. Trees have been carefully chosen with this advice in mind. These will be standards and pruned to lift the crown as they grow. This will allow for sufficient clearance for the car park on one side and the access to the roadway on the other side. Total costs are £4,308, including VAT, and £2,000 has been requested from the community chest. That's for 10 tree planting pits, supply and plant of 4 crab apple trees and 6 silver lime trees, including the stakes, ties, water wells, stem protection and the mulch. This will also include the first year of aftercare, which is a weekly visit, applying 50 litres of water per tree per visit, and that's for 20 weeks from May to September. The Parish Council have agreed to pay the remaining shortfall and will also prune the trees and provide long-term care and maintenance. And we have support from Councillor Graham Cone and Councillor Carla Hoffman. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Colleagues, I'm just wondering whether or not they're allowing, if we've had such a drought this year, I take it they'll be planting in October, won't they? About October for trees, give or take.
I'd say sort of November time onwards would be.
Yeah, so it may be wetter then, so it's good. Okay, anyone got any comments, please? No? No comments. I'm assuming we're in support of that then?
Yep.
That's a yes. Thank you, Emma. And I think, as they say, that's that then. Right. First off, thank you very much to the officers, Orla, Ben, Emma, in that order. Excellent, as always, thank you very much. It's been very informative. Thank you to John for being so happy, and James for being called out. For the democratic staff, as always, what do I have to say? And last but not least, you gang. It's been a lovely afternoon. But I suppose most important is the hundreds of people, because it is the holiday season, who will be out there watching this on a live stream thinking, I really wish I'd made that application for the trees for our patch. You still have time, right? So there's always another month, another dollar. So on that note, I bid you farewell. Thank you very much until the next time. Goodbye.